Musicology Tonight is made possible by scholars like you. Click the link in the comments to contribute to this public musicology. Hi, I'm Sam, and welcome to Musicology Tonight, the review for comprehensive exams in music studies. We begin with Joseph Kerman's 1985 classic, Contemplating Music, Challenges to Musicology. This book's guiding question is, where is the evidence of our musical intuition in our writings about music? With Kerman arguing that a critical stance is necessary for good musicological work. The first topic is the problem of positivism. Positivism is a philosophical position that's interested in what can be verified or proved. The problem is that it's not immediately apparent how important verification or proof is to the art of music. The second topic, criticism, is Kerman's proposed solution. Criticism is the evaluation of a work of art based on some kind of analysis and allows us to experience the work of art from a very particular point of view. Under the umbrella of musicology, we have music theory, within which we usually group analysis. Music theory is the study of different systems of music, using analysis to justify one's own aesthetic response. Music systems are very handy and allow us to recreate and improvise within different styles. The fourth topic, ethnomusicology, is an anthropology of music, focusing on the relationship between non-Western societies and their musical practices. Finally, Kerman details the emerging historically informed performance movement, whose authentic spirit lives on today in specialized departments and festivals. All told, the book provides a survey of the field from World War II to the mid-1980s. The book made quite a splash, and though it was written almost 40 years ago, I still find many similarities to the way our music departments still operate. How does Kerman connect his dots? Let's find out on the timeline. Kerman opens with a history of American musicology's early 20th century roots in the work of Carl Seeger and his wife, Ruth Crawford Seeger, beginning with Carl Seeger's return to the States from Germany in 1912 to teach at UC Berkeley. His friendship with the avant-garde composer Henry Cowell and fellow ethnomusicologists like Helen Heffron Roberts merged the 19th century Germanic musicology with the first phase of American modernism. Musicology also finds its early roots in the generation of European émigrés, many of them German Jewish musicians, fleeing the Nazis throughout the 1930s. In a future reading, we'll read the names of these refugees, but Kerman mentions Arnold Schoenberg, a name with which we may be familiar. Another Jewish musician, Heinrich Schenker, never immigrated to the United States, but many of his students did, and his theoretic ideas have had a profound impact on the development of musicology and music theory as a discipline. These founding scholars brought with them a world-class musical tradition, as well as scientific approaches to its evaluation. This first wave of modernism oriented the field in ways which still guide our thinking today. The critical editions of the 1950s brought together many disparate parts of music and dialogue, performance, history, and interpretation. In the new Bach edition, Kerman notes the lack of discussion of style, but perhaps that's what we want as performers, a secure edition from which to make our own musical decisions. Kerman describes the 1960s as a period of relative stability, with each faction of the music department pursuing their own interests, Beethoven research continuing the edition tradition. During this decade, scholars such as Leo Treitler and Joseph Kerman himself began arguing for the re-emphasis of criticism in an increasingly scientific field. When Stravinsky died in 1971, the future of modernism seemed uncertain, with many competing interests flooding in the gap. And so the 1970s were marked by an undogmatic spirit and saw the completion of most scholarly edition work that had been started in the 1950s. In this decade, the effect of the critical revolutions in other departments began to influence musicology's focus, and the following decade of the 1980s was a ripe time for intellectual histories like Karl E. Schorsky's Fin de siècle Vienna. At the same time, the New Grove edition of 1980 had a dictionary effect, creating a shared language between, as well as borders around, the various subdisciplines. The story really picks up in the 1940s, during what Kerman calls the second wave of modernism, from 1945 to 1960. This era saw huge developments in electronic music, as avant-garde wanted to eliminate any sense of having a previously formed, unconscious theory. This led to an overemphasis of positivism in musicology. Positivism is a philosophy which prizes provable assertions over, say, aesthetic perceptions.
Kerman suggests that positivism for a music theorist at the turn of the century, like Heinrich Schenker, might mean accounting for the relationships of internal musical elements like scale degrees and figured bass. For the musicologists of the 1950s, this was the work of collecting and verifying musical additions. If music is structured, then musical discourse must be structural as well.
The 20th century's predisposition towards modernism highlighted theory's ability to find new ways to make music work. And so, music became more prescriptive and less descriptive. We'll hear those two terms frequently. Kerman prescribes criticism for the problems that positivism poses, casting the 1960s to the 1970s as a series of reactions against positivist ideology. Criticism provides an account of the meaning and value of artworks. As reviewers noted, though Kerman emphasizes criticism throughout the book, his exact definition isn't clear.
Leo Treitler casts a wide net when he describes musicology as not characterized by a limited subject matter, music of the distant past, but by the attitude it assumes towards all music, sees music as full as possible in its total context.
What are the methods we can use to arrive at total context? Kerman offers a few tools to the critic in his study of historiography.
Historiography is the study of histories. There are several competing opinions on how best to do this, and Kerman compares the diachronic against the synchronic method. Diachronic, sometimes called evolutionary or determinist history, emphasizes cause and effect explanations for every event, even between what may seem like distinct levels of historical importance, say between the single event and the larger affairs of the state. Synchronic, by contrast, is thick history, which tries to dodge a chronological narrative's cause and effect relationship, attempting to describe the quality of events, the experience of the historical moment. Kerman views diachronic history as a tool, looking to synchronic history for contextual evidence about the character of a particular musical work. When we encounter a musical work, we often have an aesthetic response, and in our evaluation, we assume some sort of analytical method. Music theory studies the different axioms that form the bases of these methods. David Lewin suggests that theory is concerned with recreating a general sound universe, and not with testing pieces to validate one's own idiosyncratic theory. And that theory must always reflect a critical attitude towards the piece. This is the essential difference between exercise and theory. Ethnomusicology is the study of non-Western music. Its methods stem from anthropology and sociology, and it has been described as a cultural musicology, rather than the study of music as an autonomous system or structure. What was unclear to Kerman at the time is how a Western musicologist can use the methods of anthropology and sociology to study Western art music. Kerman argues that Western art music is just too different from other kinds of music to adopt the same research methods. We'll hear much more about this debate in future readings. There is some positivistic overlap between musicology and performance studies in their interest in critical texts, as both ask, what's left out in notation? For Renaissance scholars, this includes the study of musica ficta. For Baroque scholars, the study of figured bass realization. The historically informed performance movement distinguishes between understanding the past and bringing the past into the moment. This field focuses on texts, performance practice, and the problems of interpretation, and has made substantial contributions to the recreation of historical instruments. What wasn't clear to Kerman is how historically informed performance relates to the practical and present world of music, the current relationship of different instruments, players, and repertoires. This criticism centers on the topic of authenticity. In Kerman's view, musicology doesn't seem to be guided by authenticity, which is only good for possibly improving the performer's interpretation. Instead, the goal lies in the balance between tradition and individual innovation.
And that's all they wrote. As you read the book yourself, fill in the timelines and glossaries we started together today. Then watch another episode of Musicology Tonight, the Lit review show. For all of us at Musicology Tonight, thanks for watching. This is a public musicology.
Next week on Musicology Tonight, it's Nicholas Cook's 2021 update to his Intro to Music text, Music, a Very Short Introduction, in which Cook moves past the 3 B's and focuses on the 3 C's, the classical era, a contemporary classical music fan culture, and its colonial roots. Explore the epistemology of thinking in music as we delve into the compositional practices of Louis van Beethoven and Armstrong. Finally, we enter the virtual world of our contemporary digital musical culture, where new technologies invite music from all over the world into our homes. All that and more
on the next Musicology Tonight.